Alright, well, there's no turning back now. I've done it. I have read Book 1 of The Wheel of Time, Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. And in this video, I will be sharing with you my non-spoiler review. That's right, non-spoiler. You are safe if you haven't read it or started Wheel of Time yet or anything like that. No spoilers in this video at all. Usually I have a spoiler discussion at the end of each of my reviews, and I still am going to do that. However, I'm going to split it into a different video. I'm sure the review is going to take up plenty of time here, so I didn't want one video to be too long. So I'm going to try something new out and split it into two different things. But yeah, with that, let's just get into the review of Eye of the World. So we'll start by talking a bit about the plot, and there was a lot I liked and a few things I did not like about the plot of this book. There's definitely a lot of cliches and tropes that take place in this book. It's compared to Lord of the Rings for some pretty solid reasons. I've heard time and time again it compared to Fellowship of the Ring, and I do understand those comparisons completely. There's a farm boy who, is probably going to end up defeating the big bad evil guy at the end of the day. Um, Probably going to be the chosen one, the whole nine. And that doesn't bother me as much as it might bother some other people. For me, I might not still be the most well-read guy out there, but I still just enjoy a good tale of just good versus evil. So hey, maybe I'm just a sucker at the end of the day. It doesn't really bother me. Farm boy to chosen one, that trope doesn't bother me yet. Books are supposed to be an escape, and to me, that this story so far gets that job done, in my opinion. It is a very long and detail-oriented book, and because of that, I actually feel at times the plot does take a bit of the back seat, so that Jordan could focus on his world building and really just telling you about the overall lore of the universe. So the plot isn't the most exciting one I've read ever. But it does enough to keep me interested, and it does have threads left unanswered that has me intrigued to keep going with the series. One thing I initially wasn't really enjoying at first was the amount of traveling that happens here. It can get a little tedious, but I will say by the fourth quarter came around, by the by the time I reached the 75% mark and on, I was actually really thankful for those slower moments. Because it was in some of those moments that it really kind of developed the characters. And by the end of the book, I appreciated that because I was kind of able to pick up on more of the nuances of each character and kind of pick up on why they were reacting the way they were and whatnot. One last thing before moving on, I did not expect survival to kind of be as big of a theme as it was in this first book. And I don't really mean survival like, oh, who's going to survive this fight? I mean literal survival where, there are times there are party members that are lost in the wilderness and have no idea where they're going to sleep, if they're going to be warm at night, when they're going to get their next meal. And I did not expect that going into it. I really enjoyed it. Again, at times maybe a little bit longer than it should have. It went a bit longer than it should have. But again, it really developed the characters in a great way. And speaking of characters, that is going to be our next topic here. So what I'm thinking is I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit about each of the characters that are in the main party here. Starting with, of course, Rand al'Thor, our main character, at least so far. He really takes about 80% or some odd of the POV chapters in this first book, which surprised me because I was kind of going into it thinking that there was going to be dozens of POV characters, and I'm sure that'll come later. Um, but yeah, that kind of shocked me that how much Rand we got right away. He's our classic, farm boy to chosen one here. If I'm not mistaken, we pretty much spend the entire beginning of the book while we're at Edmund's Field inside Rand with his POV here. And that is kind of what helped me connect to his character quicker compared to some of the other ones. The feelings he has towards his hometown and his friends, really I was able to resonate with. The feeling he has about Tam, his dad, hit me right in the soft spot. Maybe I just read it at the right time in my life, but I really enjoyed it. Um, Hearing how I was able to really connect with how he was describing how Jordan made Rand describe his feelings about his small little family, about his friends that he holds so dear to him. It was that beginning that made me connect with him. One thing worth noting about Rand, along with all of the Edmondsfield characters here, is they all have this in common a little bit. They can all be just stupid as hell at times, and I really hope it doesn't annoy me too much in the future books. After the first book, I'm kind of just chalking it up to being from a small town and they're out in the world for the first time and being awestruck kind of by everything and just making, dumb decisions a little bit. So that's kind of what I'm sticking with for now. Moving over to Matt now, and I might make a lot of people mad here right away, because I know a lot of people do and like Matt. Uh, After this first book, I kind of really just found him annoying as hell. I'm never gonna lie to you guys, even if it's the unpopular opinion. But I'm sure this is the first book, and I know his character will probably grow on me. But yeah, I can't wait to see Matt's development because yeah, after the first book, I was like, okay, he's kind of just a dummy. One of the big plot points in this book kind of comes back to bite Matt, and it's really just a giant boneheaded move on his part. And it really made me not. He didn't start strong. Made me not really like him that much right away. Now that I've said that, I'm gonna read the rest of the series, and by the end of the book two, he's gonna be my favorite watch. All right, now Perrin, and I won't lie. At times, Perrin kind of feels like the middle child of the Edmonds Fielders at times. But I will say this, despite that, after reading book one, he's actually my favorite character so far, funny enough. He does get some POV chapters, he does, in this first book, and they were some of my favorite parts in the story. I won't say exactly what happens to Perrin here for the review, and to be honest, I'm really not 100% sure of what exactly happened myself. Um, but what I do understand is that it's pretty cool and Perrin is pretty cool because of it. And out of the Edmonds Fielders, I think Perrin is the most different by the end of the book compared to how he starts. And I'm really excited to kind of see how his character develops in the future books. Now to the ladies from Edmonds Field, and I'll start with Egwene. I think that is how you say her name, so that's what I'm going with. And nothing against her, but I do believe so far she is my least favorite character out of the main party. From the time she throws herself into the party, she kind of just, to me at least, comes off as just annoying. Maybe she'll grow as I read on, but that's just how I feel so far. I understand she is sort of Rand's love interest, but at the same time, not really at all. So, hey, she does have some big plot points of her own, some hooks of her own that I'm interested to see going forward. But so far she just is my least favorite character out of the party so far. Someone has to be there, and right now it is her. Now moving to the wisdom, Nynaeve, and I actually do like her character a little bit more than Egwene, at least so far. Maybe there's just something about how Jordan wrote her character. I was able to just I don't know, like more, I guess. And maybe it's something about how she demands respect out of everybody, even from people who don't really have to respect her. Really just made me appreciate her character more. I will say at first it did feel a bit random when she was brought back into the story, but her reasoning was sound, and I was happy that Jordan is bringing her along for the ride. Um, there is a certain dynamic that happens between her and another character in this first book that some readers say kind of comes out of nowhere, and I can kind of get where they mean a little bit, but I didn't mind it as much. I kind of enjoyed the beginning of this little romance. I don't even know if it'll keep go any further than what it was, but hey, I enjoyed whatever it was. And I think it was that quick little moment that kind of rounded out Nynaeve's character a bit more compared to Egwene or some of the others. Right, now over to Moraine Sedai, and she kind of takes the role of Gandalf in this book. She is the mentor of the group, guided the party, and without her, they would really have no goal or direction or really have anything to reach for. Simply put, no Moraine, no story. She, Elisa and I of the world, she's kind of the driving force behind everything. She's the one that lights a fire under the other characters to get them moving in the first place. I did feel like Jordan uses Moraine as a bit of his failsafe in this story, and what I mean is like, okay, is the fight unwinnable? Moraine's gonna do something. Oh, there's a giant obstacle on the road. Okay, Moraine, what do you have under up your sleeve to get us through this? Um, it doesn't ever feel like a Deus Ex Machina or anything like that because he doesn't entirely make the rest of the group incompetent while things are going wrong. Um, he does a good job at showing off some of the things magic can do in this world, and he does that all through Moraine's character. Now from Moraine to Lan, and if she's Gandalf, then he is definitely Aragorn, and he's probably my favorite character not from Edmund's Field so far. What's not to like about Lan? I mean, he's a badass swordsman, he has a badass horse, his cloak is one of the coolest things I've ever read so far. He is just that guy. Jordan doesn't give Lan a lot of lines in this book, but the ones he does have is just fire. It makes everything he says just so much more impactful. Have I said that Lan is cool enough yet? Moving over to Tom Maryland. He is the bard of the group, or gleeman, in this world. He's cool. You know, Tom, to me, he's not quite my favorite character, not towards my favorites, but he's definitely not towards the bottom either. He does take on a few different roles throughout this first book, but my favorite would be the role he takes of a mentor. He at one point kind of takes some of the other members of the party under his wing, and it's really cool, I think. Um, I think it's in those few chapters that Tom turns into a character, you know, from a character I could go with or without, to a character I actually really enjoy. Some things do happen with his character in this book, and it's kind of unclear exactly. It does leave a little bit of a cliffhanger with him, so I'm excited to read on and see what happens to Tom. Last but not least, we have Loyal the Ogier, and we meet him in the second half of this book, and I am so thankful that we did because I just love what Jordan is doing with his character. You know, it's no secret that Jordan took a lot from Tolkien while writing Eye of the World, but to me, Loyal might be his most original character so far. Um, he puts a spin on the gentle giant here. You know, in the fantasy I've read so far, anytime there's a Ogier or, you know, that type of giant race type of character, they're always sort of a fighter type, a warrior. You know, the fact that he's very much not a fighter so far, but he might be the smartest person in the party. You know, it's unclear so far, but he might even know more than Moraine, which, you know, that just makes him so much cooler in my eyes. These next few parts of the review I'll kind of go over a little bit quicker since they have already kind of touched on some of them a bit already. Uh, like this, moving to world building, and this is very much a world building book. In my opinion, this is actually Jordan's strong suit when it comes to this first book in the series. And, you know, I know it's a long series and the setup needs to be good. Well, Jordan did not disappoint here. Like I said earlier, there are times in this book that the plot and character development does take a back seat so that Jordan can focus on this world building aspect. He really wants to make sure you know the ins and outs of every single city and village that they're traveling through, or he might really want to make sure that you know the layout of the new region that the party's traveling in. There's a lot of traveling in this book, and while sometimes it can be a little bit boring uh, plot wise, Jordan is using those moments to draw out this world for us. Another thing I've kind of already talked a little bit about, but I'll touch on it again, is the pacing. The pacing is a little bit of a mess in this first book because of those world building aspects I just mentioned. Despite the length of this first book, and I kind of already said this, when I hit the 75% mark, I was suddenly very thankful for those slower moments in the story, for those traveling aspects. Um, it really made that last chunk of the book a lot more enjoyable because I was really able to understand where everybody was coming from and why they were acting and doing the things they were doing. Will I keep going with the series? Obviously, I plan on writing this out. I got the entire set for Christmas, so I can't just stop now. I'll be picking up The Great Hunt here in a few weeks. Can't wait. Overall, I give The Eye of the World 4 out of 5 stars here. I might be a little bit generous, but I did really enjoy the world building aspects in this first story, and I'm trusting Jordan a little bit to those hooks and those elements he introduced in this first book and the threads that are keeping me intrigued. I'm really trusting him to bring it home. So, you know, when it's all said and done, I might go back and re-evaluate my ratings and change them around once I complete the series. But right now, a 4 out of 5 just feels right for Eye of the World. So that will be the end of the review. This is normally where I would go into the spoiler discussion, but as I said, I'm going to split that off into a different video, trying something new here since this is already getting a little bit long. So be on the lookout for that. If you really want to make sure you see it, please subscribe. If you want to support this video, please drop a like. And let me know your thoughts on Eye of the World and Wheel of Time in general in the comments below. Please no spoilers down there because I have only read book 1 so far. But yeah, anyway, I plan on filming that spoiler discussion here in just a few minutes. So I'll be sure to get that to you guys here shortly. I will see you then. Till next time.